Well, I can't really come up with a really good intro for every single review that I do, so let's just dive right into this one. Every Country's Son by Mogwai. So, Mogwai is a pretty prominent figure within the post-rock, minimalistic approach without compromising too much of his symphonic presentation. Now, I first fell in love with these guys back in like 2004 or so with their Happy Songs for Happy People, which is really strange because it's a pretty dark album. Now we arrive at another full-length studio album, which is Every Country's Son. And I'm pleased to say that this is one of the first Mogwai albums, even including Hardcore Will Never Die, where I was thoroughly surprised and impressed with the music that was found on here. Right off the get-go, there are two tracks that really piqued my interest. Crossing the Road Material and Don't Believe the Fife. These two tracks just are delicious. Probably Don't Believe the Fife is the one that I put as the top runner, as just being my favorite track on here. Like, there's no low points. This album is one that I can sit down to and listen from start to finish and have a beautiful, amazing time. The album actually starts off with Cool Vereen, and I actually like the wordplay on there. It has that same kind of feeling that was captured from Hardcore Will Never Die, but it advances the music forward. It's not just another carbon copy. It took what they had been experimenting with, like, say, the rave tapes and some of the soundtracks that they had done, like Metric and whatnot, and then applied what worked into that kind of playground that was Hardcore Will Never Die to move the music forward. And I think this was a very smart move from them. Cool Vereen is a perfect example of this, where it takes its time to build, and when it does build, we have those really interesting synth sounds that are overlaid within the main rhythm section on there. And within the second track of Party in the Dark, I like that they didn't just keep it as mellow as they did within Hardcore, or within even like Metric or some of the other soundtracks. Party in a Dark Place elevates the music. We have some actual lyrics on here. It really is a party in a dark place. The atmosphere is quite dark, but the lyrics are quite happy, and I like that little bit of a juxtaposition of that. So the third song of Brain Sweeties is a really interesting track in that it almost has kind of like a Zimmer drop or Zimmer sound, like a Hans Zimmer, but only to like really start off the song. Once we get into that, then we have again that analog digital transition that's going on there. Now, in my mind, this album's kind of divided into three parts. We have the first four songs, right? The Cool Vereen, Party in the Dark, Brain Sweeties, and Crossing the Road Material, taking up the first third of the album. And there's like a clear stop right after Crossing the Road Material, because after Crossing the Road Material, it has such that great buildup that I was talking about at the beginning. It's got such a great payoff, and at that point you just need a little bit of a break. So I usually pause it after Crossing the Road Material just to digest those four tracks, and then from there we have the next four: aka 47, 20 Sighs, 1,000-Foot Race, and then Don't Believe the Fife. And the reason why I listen to these guys outside of just the numerical presentation on this is how each of these four songs really balance one another. Like, aka 47 is very atmospheric, very flying in the sky kind of a song, and then we have 20 Sighs, which is much more of a grounding song. Within that 1,000-Foot Face, we have again that atmospheric, that very floaty song, very almost space rocky, and then finally Don't Believe the Fife accumulates all of those into that great build up and payoff. So the first third of the album, the second third of the album, they play with one another just perfectly, and I love that presentation. Finally, the last third is the remaining three songs of Battered at the Scramble, Old Poison, and Every Son's Country, and these three songs do a fantastic job of really rounding off the album beautifully. Battered at the Scramble just really blows you right at the gates, right at the get-go, and this is why I have a little bit of a break after Don't Believe the Fife and Battered, because it needs a little bit of that break so that when you flip an album over, you're ready to get into the final stretch. And this one actually reminds me of some of the experimentation that the Beatles were doing. I want to say it was Blue Jay Way or something along those lines. And then when we get to Old Poisons, it continues that, like it uses that momentum that we had from Battered at the Scramble and just really punches you with the Old Poison, so that these two tracks just continue hitting you. It's like kind of like a mad dash to the finish line, and it's really beating you over the head with it. And so when we finally get to the final piece of Every Son's Country, you're kind of like broken and you're beaten and torn, and you're just kind of like left in this like shamble of what did we just hear with those last two tracks. And it allows you to have a little bit of a reflection of what had all come around. So within this final third stretch, it's that reflection, it's that kind of remembering of what had come before and really allowing you to digest all that had come. And no other way to finish off this album than Every Country's Son, because it starts off very like subtle and very subdued, and then when it builds through the song, it's able to really recapture a lot of those bombastic moments. And that final climax, it's maybe not to the same beauty as Crossing the Road material and Don't Believe the Fife, but it still has just that beautiful presentation, that beautiful final farewell that really makes this album fantastic. This is probably Mogwai's strongest work in years, probably since Happy Songs for Happy People. I've just been loving this, and I've been listening to this practically on repeat for the past couple of days. Beautiful, beautiful album. My final rating on this, I love this album with my whole heart. 2018 has really been setting the bar high with a lot of the albums that have been out so far. Really excited to hear what the rest of this month has, but I mean, this guy blew me out of the water. And maybe it was because the last few Mogwai tracks just didn't really do it for me, that this one just picked it up and really blew it out of the park. So that's it for me. What do you guys think? Did you love this album? Did you hate this album? Let me know of your own thoughts of Every Country's Son by commenting down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys, as always, are the best. And until next time, notes out.